Today's topic is going to be on the pitfalls of perfectionism. And this topic came to mind because this is something that I wish someone told me earlier on in my path and practice. So maybe I wouldn't have expended so much energy. So really this intention behind this topic is about how we can be more energy efficient in our path and practice and not overexert ourselves uh, and burn ourselves out over something that isn't working, which is hence the word, the trap of perfectionism. So when I think of my definition of perfectionism, I think of something, let's say a checklist, a to-do list, a curriculum, program, class to complete. And if my perfectionistic qualities were to come into the forefront, it would be about completing each task, and there would be a completion, an end date, and being done, as well as doing it all in a way that in my perfectionistic world would look like being an A+ student and having everything dialed in perfectly, probably having the least amount of mistakes possible, et cetera, et cetera. So if you are looking at the structure of perfectionism, there is structure, sure, but actually it's rooted in a lot of rigidity. And if we continue to unravel this structure of perfectionism and this behaviors that it might trigger, there is actually a lot of ego and pride involved in this because the ego attaches itself to what it thinks is perfect, and it then wants to execute this behavior action in this perfect way. And then the self becomes further identified and strengthened as, oh, I am this type of person because I have done this type of way that in my view and my definition is perfect. And perfection is the greatest illusion on this path. If you haven't realized it already for yourself, this path is so messy. And I recognize hindsight that I was so enticed by the concept of perfection because it was so seemingly clean and tidy and neat. But perfection is an illusion and a delusion. And when we find ourselves moving in that direction, it creates a lot of suffering. It creates a lot of suffering around emotional, mental distress and stress in general. It creates so much anxiety. There also has this underlying energy of like it being fueled off of some form of fear. Whether it's a fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, and fear in general. So I want you to consider maybe some of the ways that we have maybe been tapping into perfection, right? And maybe offer you a different concept, a different construct and structure to operate from. And that one is what I would call excellence. And I feel like it makes me have this aha moment of like, oh, I see why, Mercedes Benz has this awesome tagline of the relentless pursuit of excellence, right? And I just think, wow, this statement that they use, that I will borrow from them, has these concepts and aspects of impeccability, of refinement, of this fluid, creative process that is never ending, this endlessness. And I want you to consider how to maybe integrating a little bit more of excellence into your path and practice, because it can be so messy and things can be planned to perfection, but the execution is not always so. Usually a lot of curveballs and a lot of variables that are out of our control. And that's the other component of that world of perfectionism, is it hyper enables our control, our sense of control of people, places, things, which then on the other hand, right, we recognize is so extremely frustrating because we don't have any control over other people, places, and things. So to operate from that world is hella frustrating. And has been a trap I've fallen into many, many, many times, and now have come to learn with some greater practices or deepened practices of loving kindness and self-compassion that excellence is the better way, the more intelligent, energetically efficient way. And that's the aspect around excellence, is it cultivates and it helps us be able to nourish greater compassion and loving kindness, not only for ourselves, but for others in whatever situation that we are engaging in. So when I think of excellence, it also can be frustrating because excellence doesn't have a rigid template or to-do list. It has this white canvas, right? And then you have all your watercolors and paints on the side to do whatever it is. So excellence has this very creative piece that is artistic, and we get to have our own personal artistic expression upon this canvas of life, also, i.e., our path and practice that is very personal to ourselves. And things or tips to support excellence, if you're integrating that into your life, I had mentioned impeccability, mentioned loving kindness, compassion. I also mentioned, there is contrary action. And what are some stabilizing points that help to support excellence is actually discipline. And discipline, I think of as consistent, healthy actions of any kind. You can be disciplined in nutrition, disciplined eating, disciplined exercise, disciplined in a consistent practice. And that discipline, which is essentially consistent, healthy behaviors and actions executed over an extended amount of time, it builds this fortitude. I know Taria has written about it, shared it on the blog, of like it creates the cohesiveness, stickiness, the glue of what holds practice together. And I would 100% agree, right? Discipline from that consistent, healthy behaviors and actions becomes this cornerstone or foundation that helps to center us and ground us when there is chaos, when there is extra movement of energy, especially when there's during, powerful times of energy, and that powerful, incredible waves of energy and power that moves through the world and our beings. Discipline and those healthy, consistent behaviors become an anchoring point for us to move from that point into greater and deeper excellence, where things might look different on the canvas as you're painting this new picture because your blue color is out and you have to work with the purples, oranges, and others. You might have to mix some paints, right, to get the color that you want to the shade. And that's so true with life. Sometimes that exact item that you want to purchase, whether it's for your home or for your life or even to eat at the grocery store, is not there. They're out of stock. They haven't stocked it yet. And we have to adapt. And excellence is so wonderful when we're striving for that, because that adaptability brings about that fluidity and flow. So that if you're entering into a situation, you're not just entering into it with one chakra, let's say. You're not just going into the situation with full navel chakra power, just gonna bulldoze everyone over and just throw away all the shackles of all the obstacles and challenges, which people do that, and you can do that in your life. But what I have experienced, that not only is it so exhausting and tiring, very similar to martial arts practice. It's like you go into a sparring match or a belt test, and all you do is you're just using all this physical strength and muscle to overpower a bigger sparring partner or attacker. And over the extended amount of time of that test, it becomes extremely exhausting, and you become less effective and efficient in one, demonstrating what you know, demonstrating the technique cleanly, and thirdly, even being able to effectively address the situation that the attacker is presenting you with. So it just is a loss overall. It might initially look and feel like, yes, I'm so strong and powerful. And that's the ego's kind of addiction, right? The enticement. But when you play the tape out, it leads us nowhere good. So, in the realm of excellence, we creatively and fluidly bring about all the access points of all of our chakras instead of just going into a situation with navel. Maybe enter with navel to kind of set a tone and precedence. But then you come into your heart to be able to connect with the situation and the people that are in the room. And then you come into your throat chakra to actually express and verbalize authentically what that truth is that you would like to express. And then maybe bring in the third eye chakra to have insight and wisdom to share in a wise, intelligent way. So it doesn't sound like just loud noise, barking orders, or anything like that. So this beautiful, potentially fun world of excellence can be very playful, putting all the different colors and paints on that canvas. And 100%, it won't look perfect. It will potentially, cause you to paint outside the lines. The paint might fall off the canvas. You might make a mess there. The shading might not come out exactly right. But this beautiful thing with us being in this world, in this physical timeline, if you will, we have this space to practice. And that is what I found to be tremendously fun. Now, once I've let go of the perfectionistic concepts, structures, or tendencies, I would continuously revert to. Because if we think about the other side effects, the other players in perfectionism, is and it's very subtle. If we're really honest, there's insecurities there, as well as a subtle sense of self-loathing. This self-loathing of when I think of self-hatred, right? And that, that's probably the most awful thing to even say in any kind of like Buddhist terminology or meditation class. But when I think of hatred, I utilize a wonderful definition I heard from before. It's like to wish the annihilation of or the omission of completely that thing. So when we are practicing and operating in the world of perfectionism, we are wishing certain things to be a certain way and absolutely wishing for the annihilation of other things to not be there in order to make things, i.e., perfect, whether that's within ourselves or within the situation or environment around us. And that loathing, that hatred, that desire to want to annihilate things is completely the opposite spectrum of compassion and loving kindness and acceptance. And essentially what I feel like would help to support a greater, better world to live in, right? And this then brings it back to start with ourselves and these practices and really looking at so honestly, oh, how am I not allowing space in a loving, kind, or accepting way to tolerate this aspect of myself that I wish it to not be there in order to then fulfill this concept of and this idea of being perfect. Instead of letting that go completely and allowing this space of excellence and allowing us to deepen our own insight and awareness to ourselves of, okay, I don't really like this aspect of myself so much. I might call it a character defect, but how can I work with it in such a way that it becomes an asset, an ally, um, fuel or the vehicle to move forward in our path and practice. Thoughts or questions? I think I hit all my points.
Do you see in impeccability and excellence as similar, or is there a variation between the two? Or is it the same or different? Or how do you view that?
Hmm. They're they are siblings. They're closer than cousins. They're siblings. Yeah. And thank you for asking that question because the other aspect of excellence in this very occult way, right, of looking at things behind the scenes is excellence is continue to move outside of our comfort zone. And continuing to move outside of our comfort zone, the ego hates because it's like, what? That I don't know what's out there. It's scary. And hence all these fears of the unknown can come up because they're like, I don't know if I'm capable. Can I do it? Can I handle that? Am I going to be taken out because of this? Because of all these unknowns that kind of get triggered. And impeccability, as Tria's wonderful definition, is coming to the edge of your comfort zone, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then taking one step further. That being impeccability. Yes, Satori.
So would you need to utilize ability to pursue excellence?
Yes, yes, very well said. And Satori just shared, you would need to utilize impeccability to pursue excellence. And that is the crux of excellence because it's very humbling, right? And very vulnerable. You literally are kind of putting yourself out there and you're like, I'm gonna step out of this comfort zone and I might look like a total fool. I completely might mess this up. This might blow up in my face. But and it absolutely is scary. I 100% get that. And I encourage and I dangle enticements to bring it and go in that direction. Because what I have experienced is that world of perfection is so filled with suffering that even though excellence feels scary, what I have come to find is it is actually really this creative, sublime process, just really creative. Anything is possible. And I know that can be scary, but it's incredibly it can be fun and fulfilling. And I think my biggest takeaway from the practice of excellence is it's awe-inspiring. How many times have I not even realized I've been practicing excellence because I really hone in on maybe impeccability and I'm taking contrary action, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. I'll look back like, holy shit, I did that. I can't believe I just did that. And I get impressed with myself, because you're surprised. And the surprise is for me an awesome feeling of shock and awe because it's absolutely having moved outside of the comfort zone, cultivating something, creating something, and seeing that, holy cow, this supposed scary space maybe isn't so scary. Maybe it's just scary for the ego. And maybe it's this continued perpetuating illusion and delusion that the ego likes to place upon ourselves in order to feel safe and to be able to more strongly be identified as, yes, oh, sorry, I have perfectionistic qualities. That's why I wasn't able to get that thing to you during the deadline because I just wanted to perfect it a little bit more spicy.
So I guess you could say this endless pursuit of excellence is the motivation or the intent
Yes,
behind
yes, the intent.
impeccability.
Yes, yes, the intent. Very well said. The intent for the impeccability, intent for ideally our practice, ideally. And that I feel like since we're so all vested in practice, ideally that would ripple into every aspect of our time, life, and mind, our whole being. Yes. Any other thoughts or questions?
How would you like just sum up excellence?
Oh my gosh. Um, do it. Just do it.
Music cars, sorry, all the advertising slogans, endless pursuit of excellence. Just do it.
Just do it. I mean, did you have a more specific question that could be like tied into
No, I was just looking for
the summary?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a fair question. How do you define excellence? Because I think it means a little something different to everybody, but that yet there is something that we each know. Like I remember Rama telling us,
Oh, yeah?
his one wish, parting wish, I guess, was be excellent to one another.
Oh,
That's what he wanted for all of his students. And
yeah.
that was an excellent wish.
Oh,
I think it came from, Bill and Ted's Adventures.
the excellent ventures.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent adventure.
Be excellent to
one
each
another.
other.
I guess it's about wanting the best.
Yes. Yes. Excellence is about, I would say, striving for the best and recognizing that in striving for the best, there may be curveballs and U-turns that we don't expect, and that then might filter into our mind and ego thinking that, oh crap, now I'm totally derailed and now I can't achieve the best because I've been blocked, or I lost the opportunity or missed the window, right? So this continuing striving for the best, I would say it's continuing to stay aligned with light in all the dimensions of light. Yeah. Yeah.
So the core word in excellence is to excel,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we're always excelling, moving forward towards enlightenment, not away from enlightenment, hopefully, to enlightenment. And we don't have to be perfect. We keep moving in that direction.
Yes. Yes, I got it. And that touches me deeply when you say that, because I almost get a little teary-eyed because I just think for myself, and I've seen it with others. I see it so much, and this is why it brings a little tear to my eye of like the suffering, because many times myself and others on this path are striving for that excellence, alignment to light and in enlightenment. But they think that they need to be perfect in order to do that. And that is such a blocker to real authentic excellence and alignment to that light that is totally coming through us all the time. And I just wonder if perfectionism is absolutely a trap. And I just wonder for others, I can't know how that maybe has held them back from full awakening, because they felt like they needed to be perfect like Rama. Yeah.
Well, that was teacher Rama, I heard. There's teacher Rama, and then there's not
Ah,
teaching Rama.
yes, yeah, true. Very, very true. Exactly. Yes. Perfect way of teacher Rama, and all the perfect ways he'd XYZ teachings and this, that, and other. Go light and everything. And I would think, honestly, if I had a conversation with him today, I think he would probably feel like he was really operating from a world of excellence. Mhm. You know? And that was really what he was putting out there. Is trying things out. Things were super bright in this way, then it would like shift, and then times and people change, situation change, the tech world was about to pop. So he's like, do computer science, and pivoted that. And I really felt like now looking back, he was a core poster child for excellence.
Guess if you think about it, like code could never be perfect, but it could be excellent.
Yes,
You could have bad code
right.
or sloppy code, even code that works, but you could have an excellent code.
Right.
You'll never know if it's perfect, right? Because you're always patching, doing updates.
That's right.
Maybe a feature you can think about, but it could be excellent. Another thing is, so that means like best and perfection aren't the same thing.
Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking because not to get caught up in like the realm of words and semantics, but I was thinking like perfection would be like a rigid definition of you need 10 of these,
Yes.
perfect. The best is maybe in the world only 9 exist, but I got all 9.
Right.
But it's not perfect because you needed 10.
Right.
But excellence would be striving to get all 9. And maybe I only got 7. Never get the other 2.
Or striving to get all 10 too.
Striving to get all
It could
10.
be it.
But it's only 9. But yeah,
Yeah.
so, I was trying. These
Yeah.
words are going in my head.
Yes.
I think
Mhm.
I think it depends on the modifier of best too, because there's
Yes.
the best, which is just perfectionism,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's like a
and then
definition.
there's your best,
Yeah.
which varies
Best I can get.
every day, every minute of every day.
Absolutely. And that best thing, I like the qualifiers of like the 4 agreements, right? Always do your best is one of the 4 agreements that helps you to kind of really support a good life. Don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and be impeccable with your word. Right. Which definitely I feel like streams into our lineage of teachings, those 4 agreements. But yeah, always do your best. I love that one. because it
Your
was,
best.
yeah, your
Not
best,
the best.
your best.
Big
And
difference.
yeah, big difference, because also if you notice what you're saying, Jyoti, is when it's in that construct, a rigid construct of perfect, I need to get all 10 in order to be perfect. Perfectionism lives in the world of a vacuum. Very black and white. Nothing changes.
Duality, right?
Yeah. Doesn't live in the world of the ocean where there's a high tide, low tide, moon waxes, wanes, and oh my God, like perfection cannot exist around that concept of the ocean. So, hence excellence, right, is very fluid, because it's like, well, it's a full moon today, and then now it's, I don't know, it's a high tide or low tide, I don't even know. And then, so this is what I'm going to do for my water sport and activity in the ocean. So wouldn't it make sense to do the other thing? If you were to do some bodyboarding thing, right, on low tide, you just scrape yourself up on a whole bunch of rocks and seashells. Get a bad
I had a paddleboard during high tide, high surf,
Oh man,
full moon.
with wind,
With wind. Get pummeled.
failure.
That's not perfect to do that, but you can still try your best and have excellence while you do it.
You sure can excel. I have no doubts. I
Yeah.
probably learned some cool techniques,
How to
strengthen
attack.
some, yeah, strengthen some muscles, but it wouldn't be perfect at all, right? Okay, yay. I think you guys got this concept. I'm so happy. And I wish that you guys will apply this, as much as you can in your life, because many years, I probably up to maybe last year, I just stopped doing the perfectionistic thing,
It was
and how twisted, right? And this is a twisted illusion around control in perfectionism, is that we're so addicted to control that we're willing to self-flagellate ourselves over it, to engender and enable self-loathing and self-hatred behaviors in order to support strong sense of control. I was just working with someone where they had spent decades of their life bodybuilding. So that's a form of perfectionism, right? As a way of talking about it in this class, right? To get their body a certain way, competed professionally and all this stuff like that. And then afterwards, guess what? They ended up they were had to stop, I think maybe because of injury or something, the bodybuilding, and they got super depressed. And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense to me. Because why? They were so embedded in that world of perfection, right? And not authentically, realistically, vulnerably addressing, excellence as this pursuit. And so when they stopped having that world of perfect, there was such great grief and loss for them. And then they have to now reconcile the whole like deterioration and or changes of their physical body. I can't even imagine. I was like, yeah, that depression, that kind of checks out. That math ends up right for me. Yes. So then we have to go back and reconcile and heal, right? All that has been um, held onto as attachments, and all those unhealthier habits and behaviors that were developed through that perfectionistic quality. Be very full suffering and very sad. So I'm sharing with you guys the big bear trap. Don't put your foot in it and get your foot off on it for your path of practice. This whole twisted concept of perfectionism, what is it that still society culturally, there is this underpinning of that. I even see it when I go visit the Asian culture with my Asian family members. It's like, oh, that person's a little bit chubby. Oh, that person's too tall. Oh, that person, and like very physically oriented around what is their ideal perfection thing. But it's so distorted because it's like you're not any of that. So you're just, I'm saying it's a trap. It's a huge trap for the ego. Huge. Yeah. It's a hungry ghost. That's what it is. Perfectionism is absolutely a hungry ghost. And I feel like that's the kind of spiritual malady of the world, right? People come in with this with that confusion of oh, I have to have a purpose, and this perfectionism, this concept is going to be my purpose. I'm going to strive for that endlessly. But actually they're feeding an empty ghost, and they do some spiritual practice, right? And recognize the perfection and the light within all things, how to then align that in a way that excels one's life to be of service, right? Becomes very totally a different trajectory.